and no one moves a limb, a muscle, when Camilla passes. And that was because they were angry with Camilla. They were furious. And not only that, Kate and William were angry too. And that anger, of course, Harry was angry, that anger went right through that small part of the congregation.
Princess Diana's sapphire ring has once again dragged the British royal family into chaos. And this time, King Charles is holding Queen Camilla responsible. According to British tabloids, the ring is an icon of Diana's struggles, betrayal, rivalry, and loss. No one, including King Charles, wants to see Queen Camilla touching her sacred memory. But why did Camilla take what was never hers to begin with? And why is a single ring causing the royal family so much trouble? Join us as we break down the scandals, the rumors, and the truth behind the sapphire ring. Princess Diana's sapphire ring. When Prince Charles proposed to Lady Diana Spencer in 1981, he offered her a ring that would go on to become one of the most valuable pieces of jewelry in the world. It was a 12-carat oval Ceylon sapphire, set in a halo of 14 diamonds and mounted in 18-carat white gold. Diana had picked it herself from the Gerard catalog, the official royal jeweler at the time. Unlike other royal brides, she did not have a ring specially designed or crafted. She simply chose a piece that anyone with enough money could buy. That decision raised eyebrows in court circles because it broke with tradition and seemed almost too ordinary for a future queen. Yet Diana loved it, and her attachment to that ring mattered more to her than how rare or unique it was. She wore it with pride, and in time it became a symbol of her marriage, her struggles, and her story. Stay tuned, because you're about to find out why that ring is causing a rift between King Charles and Queen Camilla, almost 30 years after the death of Princess Diana. Remember that Princess Diana's life ended tragically in 1997. Immediately after Diana's death, her jewelry became part of the personal legacy she left behind for her two young sons. Among the collection of sparkling pieces was the famous sapphire engagement ring. To the world, it was more than jewelry. It carried the memories of heartbreak, of fairy tale beginnings that turned into a very public disaster. To William and Harry, though, it was something more private, something that connected them to their mother when she was gone. Over the years, people began spreading rumors about what happened to that ring after Diana's death. The story goes that William and Harry were allowed to pick keepsakes from their mother's belongings, and Harry, then only 12 years old, chose the sapphire engagement ring. The reason, according to this tale, was that he had often seen it on his mother's hand and wanted to hold on to that memory. It became part of the family lore, repeated in documentaries and retold by commentators who followed the royal family closely. Later, Diana's former butler, Paul Burrell, added fuel to this narrative when he suggested that Harry eventually handed the ring to William so that it could serve a greater purpose. According to Burrell's version, Harry realized that his brother, as heir to the throne, should be the one to use the ring when the time came for him to propose. This idea, whether true in every detail or not, gave the ring even more mythic power. It suggested that the two brothers were united in their devotion to their mother's memory, willing to make personal sacrifices for one another in her honor. When William finally proposed to Kate Middleton in 2010, the sapphire ring reappeared before the eyes of the world. William explained his choice as a way of keeping his mother's presence in the next chapter of his life. For the millions who followed the royal family, it was seen as Diana's memory re-entering the palace, carried into the future by the woman who would one day be queen. The image of Kate, wearing the same ring that once sat on Diana's hand, sparked waves of emotion. To some, it was healing, a symbol of continuity. To others, it was bittersweet because it brought back the image of a young Diana stepping into a marriage that would unravel before the world's eyes. From that moment, Kate was never photographed without the sapphire. It became her signature piece, worn on official duties, foreign tours, and family portraits. Every time it appeared, It reminded the world of Diana, the so-called people's princess. But in the digital age, when rumors can spread faster than facts, not everyone accepts this as the full story. And the latest stories about the ring will leave you speechless. According to online rumors, Queen Camilla, Charles's longtime companion and now his wife, actually took the ring. These stories gained traction on blogs, forums, and social media posts, where outrage and suspicion spread quickly, often without evidence. The idea of Camilla ever having Diana's engagement ring fed into a narrative many people already believed, that she had taken Diana's place in Charles's life, and by extension, in the royal family. For those who still felt protective of Diana's memory, the thought of Camilla touching something so deeply tied to her seemed like a violation. But no credible record supports these claims. Photographs and official records make clear that Kate is the only royal who has ever worn that sapphire engagement ring since Diana. Camilla has been pictured in sapphire jewelry, yes, but those pieces come from other royal collections, not from Diana's items. Still, the myth refuses to die. Each time Camilla appears in sapphire earrings or necklaces, whispers rise again. People look at her and see blue stones, then link them back to Diana's iconic ring. The public reaction is often swift and fierce, with comments accusing her of stealing or disrespecting Diana's memory. Even when experts step in to explain that the jewels are from entirely different sets, the suspicion remains. The fact checks never spread as widely as the rumors, and so a story with no proof continues to influence the way people talk about the Queen Consort and her relationship to Diana's ghost. In all honesty, the sapphire ring is more than a piece of jewelry. It is a battleground of memory and meaning. For William, it was a way to honor his mother when stepping into marriage. For Harry, it was once a keepsake that symbolized love and loss. For Kate, it has become the most powerful emblem of her public identity. For the public, it is a reminder of a princess who they feel still belongs to them. And for Camilla, unfair or not, it is part of the ongoing story that ties her forever to Diana in the eyes of millions. This single object, chosen casually from a jeweler's catalog more than 4 decades ago, still drives headlines and arguments. It carries with it both love and pain, both admiration and anger. Every time it flashes in front of cameras, it keeps alive the memory of a woman who died too young and the complicated story of the family she left behind. And as we move forward into the darker corners of Diana's life, her marriage, and the storm around Camilla, you will understand why an ordinary ring is rocking the royal family. Keep watching. Princess Diana, Queen Camilla, King Charles's love triangle. When Diana entered the royal family in the early 80s, she was young, hopeful, and eager to play the role of a supportive wife. Yet even in the earliest days of her marriage, she could not escape the shadow of Camilla Parker. Bowles. Charles's friendship with Camilla had never faded, and Diana sensed that it was not just friendship at all. To the outside world, it may have looked harmless, but to Diana the bond was far too deep and far too steady for her to ignore. It planted a seed of suspicion that grew stronger with time, and her doubts soon became undeniable. By 1989, the strain could no longer be contained behind palace walls. At a party, where all three were present, Diana is said to have walked straight up to Camilla and confronted her. It was one of the rare times Diana directly faced the woman she believed stood between her and her husband. The exchange did not end the affair, but it showed Diana's determination to defend her marriage, even if she was isolated in doing so. For those who knew her, it was a moment that revealed both her vulnerability and her strength. The following years made Diana's private fears brutally public. In 1992, a book by journalist Andrew Morton sent shockwaves through Britain, titled Diana. Her true story, it painted a raw picture of her despair, her sense of betrayal, and her struggle to maintain dignity under immense personal pain. What the world did not know at the time was that Diana herself had quietly provided the material, allowing her voice to come through the pages, even though she never admitted it then. The book confirmed what many suspected, that her marriage was not only troubled but deeply fractured. If Morton's book cracked open the story, the scandal that came next blew it wide apart. Keep watching, because we're about to split it open. It happened in 1993. A private telephone conversation between Charles and Camilla leaked to the press. Known infamously as the Camillagate tapes, they revealed a level of intimacy that left the public stunned. These were not mere friendly calls. They were deeply personal exchanges that confirmed Diana's worst fears. For the monarchy, it was an unprecedented embarrassment. The reaction from the public was brutal. Charles' popularity dropped to new lows. Many saw him as unfit to lead, while sympathy for Diana surged. She was no longer just a princess in distress, but a woman wronged, fighting for her place in a story that seemed determined to erase her. Across Britain, her honesty and humanity drew people closer to her, while Charles and Camilla were cast as the villains in a royal drama that unfolded in newspapers every day. Diana chose her moment to strike back in 1995. In a now legendary interview with the BBC's Panorama program, she laid bare what she had endured. The line that defined the conversation was her acknowledgement that there were 3 people in her marriage. For the world, this was confirmation of everything whispered for years. For Camilla, it was the moment that forever branded her as the other woman in the court of public opinion. Diana's calm but cutting revelations left the monarchy scrambling to protect its image, while she emerged as the voice of truth in a family known for silence. After the interview, Camilla's reputation was in tatters. While Diana received sympathy, Camilla became the target of widespread scorn. She was mocked in tabloids, despised by royal watchers, and blamed for destroying a marriage that had once been sold as a fairy tale. Inside the palace, advisors and insiders tried to salvage Charles's image, urging the public to see him as a man trapped by duty and circumstance. But in the eyes of the people, Diana had already won their loyalty. The fallout was not confined to the adults. William and Harry, still teenagers, were dragged into a conflict they could not escape. They loved both parents, but they also saw their mother in pain and their father seeking comfort elsewhere. For them, the family battles were not just headlines, but a daily reality. They were forced to live through confrontations, whispers, and the sting of seeing their parents turned into figures of scandal. The impact on their trust in the institution would stay with them long after. By 1996, the marriage had finally reached its end. The divorce was finalized, and Diana was stripped of the title, Her Royal Highness, though she kept the title, Princess of Wales. Charles and Diana had gone their separate ways, yet Camilla remained by his side. She was no longer just a figure in the shadows, but part of his public life, though still met with hostility whenever she appeared. What was once an affair hidden behind closed doors had become a central part of royal history, one that changed the image of the monarchy forever. The love triangle of Diana, Charles, and Camilla was not just gossip. It was the defining story of a generation. It revealed cracks in an institution built on image, leaving ends that would take decades to heal. As the divorce papers settled and Diana tried to carve out a life of her own, the stage was set for the tragic events that would follow and for the chaos her absence would unleash. Stay with us, because the story is about to get a lot more interesting. Princess Diana and King Charles' divorce. When Diana and Charles finally divorced in 1996, the settlement was not just about property, money, and titles. It was equally about the jewels she had worn as Princess of Wales. Royal protocol required that crown-owned pieces and those given to her by the monarchy be returned. These included tiaras and certain ceremonial pieces, but the jewelry Diana had received as personal gifts, especially from foreign dignitaries and admirers, remained hers. Among them was the lavish sapphire set, famously gifted to her by the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia in the early 80s. This suite of jewels, consisting of earrings, a necklace, a bracelet, and a watch, became symbolic of Diana herself. After the divorce, Diana continued to wear her sapphires. They reminded the world that although she no longer had her royal title, she was still the woman who had transformed the image of the monarchy. The sapphires were a link between her public role and her privacy, a declaration that her identity could not be stripped away with a legal agreement. These pieces became markers of resilience, and each appearance of Diana in sapphires carried a story of survival after betrayal. Even after Diana's death, her sapphire set remained firmly tied to her memory. Diana's jewelry, not simply an inheritance of gems, but an inheritance of meaning. To take them out of that context would invite outrage, and the palace knows this better than anyone. What complicates matters is that other royal women, especially Kate and Meghan, have worn Diana's jewelry. Kate's engagement ring is Diana's sapphire and diamond ring, chosen by William as a way to keep his mother's memory alive at the center of his marriage. Meghan has also been seen in Diana's pieces, a deliberate decision by Harry to honor the bond between his wife and his mother. These appearances reinforce the idea that Diana's jewelry is passed not across royal ranks, but across her bloodline, given to her sons and worn by their wives. This is why each time Kate or Meghan wears something of Diana's, the public sees it as a continuation of Diana's presence, almost as though she is still shaping the royal family. But remember that Camilla's position is more complicated. She has access to the royal vault, which is stocked with historic sapphires belonging to the monarchy, not Diana. Over the years, she has worn large sapphire necklaces and brooches from this collection. These are legitimate royal pieces, some dating back to Queen Victoria, and they are her right to wear as queen consort. Yet every time she steps out in sapphires, the comparison becomes unavoidable. In the eyes of the public, it is not just Camilla wearing jewels. It is Camilla stepping into the visual space once dominated by Diana. This has fueled an ongoing battle of symbolism, whether fair or not. Tabloid headlines love this confusion. They often fail to report on the difference between Diana's sapphires and the sapphires Camilla wears from the Crown collection. Readers are led to believe Camilla deliberately stole Diana's jewels, even when that is not the case. The emotional weight of Diana's memory means audiences rarely pause to separate fact from exaggeration. Once the rumor enters circulation, it becomes gospel for a section of the public. Social media has only made this worse. Some even go as far as to claim that Camilla has had Diana's sapphires refashioned, an idea unsupported by any evidence but widely repeated online. The palace has never needed to address these claims officially, but its silence often fuels speculation instead of quelling it. Each appearance of Camilla in sapphires is interpreted as a challenge, a robbery, even if the sapphires have no link to Diana at all. At the center of this entire storm is one piece above all others, the sapphire engagement ring that belonged to Diana and now rests on Kate's hand. The ring chosen by Diana for her proposal in 1981 became the single most recognized piece of royal jewelry in modern times. It is not merely a ring, but a symbol of Diana's life, her marriage, and her complicated role in the royal family. Today, it remains the most potent reminder of her presence. It is not difficult to see why this ring has become almost untouchable. The ongoing jewelry battle shows how much Diana still dominates the royal story, even in her absence. The fact that Camilla's sapphires, regardless of their origin, are seen as Diana's jewelry shows that the ghost of Diana is alive and strong. Jewelry has become one of the battlegrounds where loyalty, grief, and rivalry play out in public view. It is less about the gems themselves and more about who deserves to wear Diana's memory and who does not. As the years passed, the conflict between Diana's legacy and Camilla's role grew. And while sapphires set the stage for this drama, the story was never going to end with jewelry alone. Something far bigger was always waiting to come to the surface. Stay with us as we break down the coming storm. Prince William, Harry, and Queen Camilla. Diana's life ended suddenly in August 1997, and the news shook the world.
From our very own Foreign Secretary, Robin Cook, who's in the Far East at the moment, that Diana, Princess of Wales, has in fact been killed in that car accident.
Charles flew to Paris to bring her body back to Britain, and she was laid to rest on the Althorpe estate, her burial drawing crowds that stretched far beyond the gates and millions who watched in sorrow. Her death left a void that never healed, and for her sons, it became a line no one could cross without being compared to her memory. In that shadow, years later, Charles moved ahead with his decision to marry Camilla, a choice that brought the brothers into direct conflict with the woman they never wanted as part of their family. Harry later admitted in his memoir that both he and William urged their father not to go through with it.
She was the third person in the marriage. She needed to rehabilitate her image.
You and your brother both directly asked your dad not to marry Camilla.
Yes.
Their fear was not simply about protecting Diana's memory, though that was always at the heart of everything. They also believed Camilla had a hunger for influence and a willingness to use the press to her advantage. Harry went as far as to describe her as a woman who played a long game, someone ready to sacrifice others' reputations if it meant securing her place beside Charles. Harry's words carried more heat, but William, too, had serious doubts. The difference was that William kept his reservations mostly behind closed doors. Harry said his brother was every bit as unsettled by the prospect of Camilla becoming their stepmother. Yet William understood the need to maintain silence for the sake of appearances. They were united in opposition, but the way they expressed it could not have been more different. Despite their resistance, Charles went ahead with the wedding in 2005. It was held as a civil ceremony, not the grand church wedding that Diana once had, which many saw as a compromise. Still, even with a quieter setting, the moment was heavy with controversy. The most telling detail was Queen Elizabeth's absence. She did not attend the wedding ceremony itself, attending only a blessing afterwards, which was widely seen as her way of signaling unease without outright rejecting the marriage. For William and Harry, the event was the final confirmation that their wishes carried little weight. They watched as the woman they once blamed for Diana's unhappiness now officially took her place by Charles's side. What hurt even more was how quickly the narrative began to shift in the public eye. Camilla, once vilified as the other woman, slowly began to be accepted as the Duchess of Cornwall, and later, Queen Consort. What had seemed unthinkable in the 90s was being repackaged, and Diana's sons were expected to fall in line with the new version of history. But that wasn't all. For years after the wedding, William and Harry treated Camilla with what many described as tense politeness. They attended family gatherings, smiled for photographs, and avoided public clashes. But the undercurrent of discomfort never fully disappeared. Their relationship with her was functional rather than warm, and those who followed the family closely noticed the lack of natural ease between them. Harry, however, refused to leave it at politeness. Over the years, he began to speak more openly about what he saw as her careful campaign to rebuild her image. He accused her of working with sections of the press, of planting stories that protected her while damaging others in the family, even himself. When his memoir Spare came out in 2023, Camilla was no longer a background figure in his story, but a central antagonist. He painted her as the villain in the grand drama of his family, someone who put her survival above all else. William stayed quieter in public, but even silence told its own story. He was not the one writing books or giving interviews, but Harry insisted that both brothers had always shared the same fear, that Camilla's rise would come at the expense of Diana's legacy. They believed her presence at the center of the monarchy blurred the memory of the mother who had once held that same place. To them, it was not just about a marriage, it was about rewriting history. It is in this atmosphere that the sapphire ring became something larger than a piece of jewelry. To Harry and William, that ring was not only a keepsake from their mother, but a line that connected them to her. It carried Diana's story and her suffering, a reminder of who she was before the intrusion of Camilla. The thought of Camilla ever wearing it, even as rumor, was deeply offensive to those who still grieved Diana. It symbolized more than rivalry. It symbolized the idea of one woman replacing another, erasing the one who came before. As the years passed, Camilla's public role grew stronger, and Charles stood unwavering by her side. Meanwhile, William and Harry's bond with her never warmed beyond what duty demanded. When Harry finally put everything into words in his memoir, it ripped open wounds that had never healed. Prepare your mind, because we are about to reveal a shocking revelation from Harry's memoir. He confirmed what many had long suspected, that he and William had once begged their father not to marry her. His accusations brought back the shadows of the past, reigniting public debate over what Camilla truly represented inside the royal family. That debate spilled over into the way people looked at Diana's belongings, especially her ring. It was no longer just a question of who wore it, but of who truly carried her legacy. For Harry and William, the ring remained Diana's alone, a treasure that could not be transferred or repurposed without betraying her memory. Camilla's very presence in that conversation kept the issue alive. The sons' fight against their father's choice was never about just one moment. It was about the ripple effects of Diana's story, and about how Camilla's presence continued to test their loyalty to her. What began with opposition to a marriage turned into years of strained civility, and eventually, an open confrontation played out in the eyes of the world. The story of William and Harry versus Camilla set the stage for how the public would forever read the symbols Diana left behind. Her ring, her legacy, and her memory became contested ground, with every gesture and every rumor fueling the perception of rivalry. If you think the royal family dispute is dirty, then wait until you see the British public's reaction to the whole story on social media. Get ready for a lifetime surprise, because the British public seems to have never forgotten Diana's legacy, including her ring. But before we get into that, let's talk about Diana's daughter-in-laws, Kate Middleton and Meghan Markle. Kate Middleton, Meghan Markle, and Diana's legacies. In the years since Diana's death, the internet has been filled with claims, rumors, and myths about who else may have worn it. The most dramatic claims have centered on Camilla, with viral posts and online trends insisting that she once stole Diana's iconic sapphire. These claims grew legs on social media, circulating widely and sparking outrage from people who saw the idea of Camilla wearing Diana's ring as an insult to Diana's memory. The truth, however, is more straightforward than the stories. Some royal watchers claim that Camilla has never worn Diana's engagement ring, and fact-checkers like Snopes have carefully debunked these claims. Yet the persistence of the rumor shows just how much power that ring carries, and how deeply people still care about who gets to wear it. Part of what feeds these myths is the fact that Camilla does wear sapphires. We mentioned earlier that the Royal Vault holds countless gemstones collected over centuries, and Camilla, as the Queen, now has full access to that collection. However, some royal watchers claim that King Charles doesn't want her near any of Camilla's personal belongings, especially Diana's sapphire ring. Over the years, she has appeared in public wearing impressive sapphire necklaces, brooches, and earrings. To most people, however, a sapphire is a sapphire. Unless one is a jewelry expert or deeply familiar with the royal collection, it can be easy to confuse one piece for another. When Camilla steps out wearing a large sapphire jewel, many people online are quick to jump to conclusions that she must have borrowed or taken from Diana. The reality is that her sapphires have always come from the crown's historical collection, not from Diana's personal jewelry box. That is why Kate's role in this jewelry story matters so much. By wearing Diana's sapphire ring consistently and openly, she has cemented herself as the symbolic heir to Diana's legacy. Every time she attends an event or waves to crowds, the ring remains visible. It is no longer just a piece of jewelry. It is a statement. It ties Kate directly to Diana in the eyes of the public, whether she intends it or not. This has created a clear difference between her and Camilla, who some royal watchers claim has never touched Diana's jewelry and likely never will. The palace, whether formally or through unspoken understanding, has drawn a boundary. Kate represents continuity with Diana, while Camilla carefully avoids association with Diana's most personal jewels. That is not all. Meghan Markle, too, has entered this story. On her wedding day to Prince Harry, she did not wear Diana's engagement ring, but she did wear another one of Diana's treasures, her aquamarine cocktail ring. This piece, a striking blue stone, set in gold, appeared at Meghan's wedding reception. Unlike Kate's sapphire, Meghan's aquamarine is not an everyday piece. It has only been seen rarely, but its appearance created another layer to the ongoing jewelry narrative. It showed that Diana's collection had been split in different ways, and that both her sons wanted their wives to share a piece of their mother's memory. Camilla's absence from this circle is not accidental. It is almost certainly the result of a careful decision by King Charles. Allowing Camilla to wear Diana's jewelry would only inflame public resentment and reopen old wounds. Even as queen, Camilla has kept to the official royal vault pieces and avoided Diana's jewels. In some ways, this has been a strategy of survival. By steering clear of Diana's items, Camilla has left space for Kate and Meghan to carry that legacy. Still, this distance has not stopped speculation. Every time Camilla steps out in sapphires, the rumors flare again. The speed and scale of online outrage today mean that these myths often spread faster than facts. A photo of Camilla in a sapphire necklace can travel around the world in seconds, accompanied by captions claiming it belonged to Diana. By the time fact-checkers step in, the story has already reached millions and fueled another round of angry comments. The internet thrives on drama, and the idea of Camilla wearing Diana's sapphire is dramatic enough to keep resurfacing, even when it has no basis in reality. This cycle of rumor and correction has created a strange kind of jewelry war in the public imagination. Kate's ring is untouchable, Meghan's aquamarine brings warmth and nostalgia, and Camilla's sapphires become lightning rods for suspicion. The truth may be simple, but the perception is far more powerful. People do not always believe the official explanations, because myths are more satisfying and more emotional than facts. What matters is not only what jewel is worn, but who wears it and how the public feels about that person. At the heart of this storm lies a deeper truth. Diana's legacy is still alive, not just in memory, but in the physical objects she left behind. Her jewelry is more than fashion. It is history, emotion, and symbolism. The chaos that surrounds these jewels is less about what actually happened and more about what people believe happened. This tug-of-war over meaning shows how much Diana's presence still hovers over the monarchy. Even decades after her passing, her jewelry continues to define who belongs in the public's heart and who does not. It has become a stage on which battles of loyalty and memory are fought, not with words, but with gemstones. The myths may be false, but the emotions they stir are very real. And as long as Diana's jewelry remains visible, these debates will not disappear. Thank you for staying with us. Do you think Queen Camilla deserves access to Princess Diana's jewelry? Share your opinions with us in the comments section. If you enjoyed the video, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, click the following video on your screen, and you will enjoy it.